So I thought I'd start by just talking about what my story is. Sometimes I'm an absolute angel to work for, and if you don't feed and exercise me in the morning before work, there's a few crocodile tendencies that tend to come out. I have a wife, Carol, and we're the mothers of two fabulous, young, well-adjusted adults. My life or journey as an entrepreneur started after 5 years working in one of the prestigious strategy consulting firms. It was sort of an interesting experience. For me, being told to wear a skirt and grow your hair was kind of like going to work every day in drag, and there never was an end in sight. It was quite a horrific experience, actually. I mean, now we know that's probably not something you do to people. But what really sort of made me leave was discovering that my male colleagues were actually paid quite a bit more than me. And I think the reason was they probably asked for more when they started, and then they kept asking. And so I left. And I'm incredibly glad that I did leave, because life's so much better afterwards. But I decided that instead of having a firm that would produce PowerPoint and think that was going to change the world, that we'd start a firm that actually tried to deliver real bottom line results for people that actually stuck. And that's the journey. That's 25 years ago. I can tell you that after your first 2,000 or 3,000 rejections, rejection actually doesn't matter anymore. But it took me 7 years to figure out how to get the executive assistants and their bosses to actually give us a meeting. And I thought I'd include this because, firstly, it's really nice to see Kamala there in her role. But secondly, if you're not following the female lead on Instagram and on Facebook, it has just a swag of these really great things that come out every day and make you laugh. So in my view, people talk about the glass ceiling. I didn't never get to the ceiling. I was so busy dealing with the glass on the floor and the invisible glass walls and trying to figure out how the system worked. But I did figure that swimming against the stream while others who just were part of the stream wasn't really a smart idea. I mean, that's bloody hard work, and it's kind of got a few life-threatening elements. And so I changed the game. So we're now in 42 countries. There's about 550 people that work for me. We deliver about 20 billion of bottom line results to our clients every year. And more importantly, we have a fabulous time doing it, and we love it. So things are going pretty well. We also make a stack of money. And in places like Australia, where we first established, we're actually starting to have a brand name that makes us part of the system. So the system's starting to work for us. But I did notice that we had a discussion around imposter syndrome. I don't have that. I have never had it. So I can't tell you how to fix that. But I thought, well, maybe I'll talk to you about my habits in case some of them are useful. And so we're going to walk through what I do as my habit. I need you to brace yourself about this because there's some devastating news. I'm talking about you as individuals. Because you are actually imperfect as a person. You are fatally flawed. And what's more, I would suspect for most of you, it's just not an occasional little fail. You're doing this every day as an ongoing habit. And so am I. But the thing is, I kind of love it. Every day there's more surprises about the 1,001 mistakes I can make. And what I see is a lot of people trying to be perfect. And I reckon that's using up somewhere between 30 and 50% of your horsepower. And there are too many big problems in this world that we need to solve for you to be wasting 30 to 50% of your horsepower trying to fake it and cover it up so that those around you don't realize that you're imperfect. I mean, they already know that. And the thing that I find sort of interesting is, or what my habit is I roll in it. Like, do you really own the fact that you're imperfect? Do you live with it and accept it and think, cool, I'm going to make a mistake? I absolutely know I'm going to make lots of mistakes here. It's just part of it. And so when you own it, you can prepare for it. My theory is that everyone else is as imperfect as you. I'm sure they are better in some dimensions than you, and I'm sure they're worse in others. And there we all are, pretending to each other, trying to cover it up, wasting 30% of our resource for that little last bit. So that's not me. That's my first habit. I totally own my imperfections. 1923, one of the most famous baseball players of all time, hit the most home runs. But look at that. He also had the most strikeouts, the most fails. Isn't that interesting? And this guy was really good. He kept his record for the most total career runs for 39 years. Right, because there's always going to be someone better that comes along. I'm sure we're not baseball players. I bet some of you have heard of Babe Ruth, but what I think is interesting is not his baseball, it's his philosophy. He's about striking at the ball, not waiting for the perfect, absolute pitch to strike. He's getting his strike rate up. And this is the second way that I think we can be really powerful, right? Is strike at that ball often. I think we spend way too much of life worrying about whether we're right for the role. Are we going to make a mistake? Are we going to fail? Are we going to get it wrong? That is actually not useful. And so instead, I'm saying we move from perfectionism to striking often and striking fast. Right? If we're going to make a difference in this world, if you're going to change the part of the world that you want to change, and Lord knows there's enough of it, then we need to get striking often. Feel the fear and do it anyway. The third part of my habit is I know that mistake's coming, so I am ready and I'm moving. And there's a few things I have on the go for that. I reckon my batting average of getting things right the first time is roughly 0. So that surprise is over for me. And so the things I do, I surround myself with absolutely fabulous people to cover my gaps. I have the most incredible team at Partners in Performance with talents that I will never have that cover my gaps. In particular, I surround myself with nice, cuddly, friendly people that are good to be with. And I have a wife that is incredible at everything, so that kind of helps in terms of covering gaps. And then the second thing I do, the absolute superpower, is I have an absolute brutal laser-like lens that as soon as I've implemented, looks at is it working? Is it working? With brutal honesty. And most of the time, of course, it's not working as well as it could, and so we're into rapidly fix-it mode. So my 2 things, surround yourself with people that fill your skill gaps, and for goodness sake, tell them what your gaps are. I mean, they've already worked it out. You're still trying to be perfect. They've already worked out what your gaps are. But the honesty around these are the bits I need you to cover for me builds a much stronger team. And then the second thing is keep firing the arrow and get better and better every time. And get better by ruthlessly, brutally honestly looking at is it working. I suspect it's because we're fearful that if we look at whether what we're doing is working, we'll find out that it's not, and it will tell us we're imperfect.